Hey, what is up everyone? I asked you guys in a poll what Kotobukiya kind of kit would you like to see next. You guys answered with a whopping 53% for ZOIDS, so here we are. And honestly, I did not know this would be this awesome, or this big. It's huge. So all I can say is, thank you for that recommendation. Once again, as usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Hobbylink Japan, so if you want some ZOIDS of your own, including this Liger right here, check out that link down there in the description. So yeah, where exactly do I begin with this review? I might as well mention that I have never built a Kotobukiya ZOID kit before. I've always wanted to, I've always been curious, and when it comes to Kotobukiya kits, a lot of times when people are looking for something a little bit outside of Bandai kits like Gunpla, the Ligers tend to be one of the first things they go for. I have built a whole bunch of different Kotobukiya kits before, from frame arms to frame arms girls, Megami device, and most recently their Hexagear kits, all of which have varying levels of quality and various levels of interest when it comes to the actual model kits. Personally, I've liked some of them. For example, I really do like what I've seen from Hexagear kits. Some of them I haven't been the biggest on. For example, some frame arms never really did it for me, but then again, I haven't tried any new recent frame arms, but I found they just tend to fall apart a lot, and that tends to be an issue for me with Kotobukiya kits. So that, as well as the price point, have always been a bit of a limiting factor when it comes to trying out a ZOIDS kit. These are quite expensive, but what I did not realize is they are huge and heavy, and it's a massive box just absolutely bursting with plastic, so you really do get your money's worth here. This thing took me forever to build. This took me the best part of a couple of days. Usually I can bang out about 2 master grades in an evening for a review, but not with this, so I'm a little behind on schedule, so this may not be as thorough a review as I would have liked it to be. But once again, to mention, I am an absolute Kotobukiya ZOID beginner. This is the first time I've ever built one, so I'm gonna sum up what I would say to someone who has not built a ZOID yet, but has built a lot of Gunpla. First off, this kit is from 2006. It blows my mind how good it is for something from 2006. Second is the thing that I mentioned multiple times already. This thing is absolutely colossally big. I can't even imagine what the bigger ZOIDS are like. They must be huge. The next thing is this does require glue, and because it did require some glue on some parts, I decided to use glue on everything that doesn't move. So the smell of this thing right now would knock out a silverback gorilla. But it holds together really nicely. So I can't really comment on what it is like without the build being glued together. The next thing is it does take quite a lot of time to build, and I will mention why that is later on when I'm talking about the aesthetics, etc. about this thing. And this build I would describe as somewhere between master grade and perfect grade, but getting a little bit more towards a perfect grade. That is when comparing it to Gunpla, of course. This is a very involved build right here. But anyway, let's get right into the review properly. So anyway, here we are at the review desk with this right here. This, of course, is the high-end master model Blade Liger AB. So once again, I am an absolute beginner when it comes to ZOIDS. This is the second ever ZOID I've ever built, but it's the first ever Kotobukiya one I've built. So that does mean I'm not really all that, well, knowledgeable when it comes to ZOIDS stuff. However, as someone who loves plastic models and has been building them for quite some time, everything from Warhammer to Gunpla and pretty much anything in between, this right here was a whole lot of fun and I loved it. Honestly, I loved it. So with this kit right here, I did choose it somewhat blindly. I've always wanted one of the cat-like mechas that ZOIDS have, from the Ligers to the saber-toothed tigers, etc. And I did just choose this one right here because it was the most recent release, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is new, by any means, not by any means at all. According to the runners, this thing dates all the way back to 2006, so essentially this right here is a 14-year-old model kit, and that does not show at all. Well, it does in some regards, but in most regards, it doesn't. So of course what is from 2006 is the 72th scale? I don't even know how you say that, but anyway, it was the Shield Liger. I'll pop that up on the screen right here. This is just based on that particular kit, so just like with a lot of Gunpla, a lot of parts are reused when it comes to similar mecha from the anime that share a lot of things in common. So this Blade Liger right here shares a lot with the Shield Liger from that year. I think this kit right here is from 2008, I'm not necessarily sure. Man, right now all I can find is 2007, but I'm pretty sure there was a 2008 in here. So once again, I'm not too sure about the release dates on these guys, so once again, if you know, drop it down there in the comments and give us all some insight, because I haven't a clue. But what I do have a clue about is just how well this kit right here has held up. So first off, as usual, I will mention the negatives, and there's not that many. Actually, essentially, there is none, and I'm just nitpicking right here. But because this is an older kit, the tech in this is a little bit older than, well, anything that came out recently. So that does mean that there is only detail on one side of the runner, not, ooh, sorry there, Liger boy, not on the other side of the runner. So that does mean when it comes to some parts that have detail on, say, all 4 or all 6 sides of the part, that means it's split up into 4 or 6 parts, which means the build is a lot more, well, longer, involved, and more inclined, I guess, to fall apart in the long term because it's made out of so many separate parts. But plastic cement is your best friend here, so get yourself some. Also, this kit isn't the most beginner friendly. Just take a look at the instructions right there. Take a look at that, and take a look at that. It might take a little while to decipher. Of course, a lot of these parts that say in the outer and inner parts, that is in Japanese. So compared to a lot of gunpla, even including perfect grades, the instructions aren't necessarily as clear. Also, once again, because it is an older kit, there's a lot of runner hopping. What I mean by that is, you'll have some parts on this runner right here, and then some parts on these runners back here, all for the one part you're working on. So that does mean there is a lot of runners in this kit, and I mean a lot. I didn't count them, but there's a lot. And that means you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, so you will need a lot of space in order to do this build well, without getting completely confused all the time. Also, if you are the kind of person that does find it a little bit pedantic to make the second leg on a Gundam or similar model kit, then this guy right here has 4 legs, all of which are very, very, very similar. All of the toes have 3 parts each. That means you have to cut out each part, clean them up, then stick them together, so it does take a lot of time. If you like that sort of thing, you will be in heaven. But what you do get right here in the end is absolutely fantastic. I've never felt any sort of photos or videos or anything like that I've seen in the past of Kotobukiya ZOID kits have really done them justice when it comes to the detail and just overall size and weight of these guys. And this is a weird thing to do, but I'm gonna do it. So enter the weighing scale. So once again, when I was talking about the price of these kits and the amount of plastic in it, this is one big old hefty girthy kit right here. Like I've said before, I've never seen anything that's done justice to just how big and hefty these guys are, so let's weigh the thing. So just popping him onto the scale like this, and this comes in at 326 grams, which is 11.5 ounces? I don't understand that. So we're going to do something a little bit on the odd side, so as well as the size comparison we normally do, we're also going to do a weight comparison. So over to the shelf now to grab some random master grades, some high grades, and a perfect grade, just so you can get the idea of how much this thing compares to some gunpla. So first off, enter the Fats Verka. He's not called Fats for no reason. He's big, he's heavy, and this should give you an idea of just how big the Liger is. The Fats is a massive master grade, and, well, this thing is essentially bigger if it was standing up on its back legs. Wait, they really need to make a Zoid werewolf. That would be awesome. And as for that weight comparison, the Fats Verka comes in at a hefty 425 grams. So there is more to the Fats than there is to the Liger, but most of that is probably canon. Also, you cannot see that on the screen right now, it doesn't seem, because the figures don't pick up on the camera, but it's 425. So next up, and meandering back to that shelf to get something a little bit more on the standard master grade side, and we're going for the Master Grade Granddaddy Gorilla Hands 3.0. So there it is, slapped down beside the Liger. You can see just how big the Liger is compared to a standard Gundam. Of course, these are both not to scale with each other, but I just mean when it comes to these model kits. As for the weight, the Master Grade 3.0 without a shield and beam rifle is just coming in at 113 grams. So in and around a third of the weight of this behemoth right here. So it wouldn't be right doing a Gundam without a Zaku, so here is the 3.0, I wish, 2.0 Zaku. I'll do both the size and the weight at the same time this time, just to speed it up. Zaku is 141, so still under half the weight of this beast. So next up then is a high grade comparison and... no, I'm not going to do that. But instead I will do that. Come here, little guy. So compared to the core Gundam, which, whoa, is tiny compared to this thing and comes in at only a paltry 17 grams, it seems like the Liger could eat this for breakfast. Next high grade for size and weight then is the Mudrock Gundam, coming in at 58 grams, and you can see the size difference right here. So next up, moving into this dark corner right here to grab us a perfect grade, and what I'm going to be going for is the perfect grade 007 sword. And that's because, well, it's the easiest one to get my hands on right now. They do come in a whole lot of different shapes and sizes, so I find this one kind of falls in the middle somewhere. Anyway, there is the size comparison, so of course the perfect grade does kind of dwarf this, but they're very similar when it comes to scale. The perfect grade is 1/60th scale, this right here is 1/72nd scale, or however you say that, 1/72th scale? So as for the weight of this big boy right here, and I will mention that the 00 kit is quite a heavy perfect grade. Compared to some of the newer ones like the Exia, this is quite hefty. This comes in at 646 grams, so nearly double the weight of the poor Zoid here, but I did weigh the perfect grade Strike Gundam without its equipment earlier on. That was more around the 442 mark. So essentially the Liger right here is more along the lines of a big old master grade, or between a standard master grade and a standard perfect grade. So now moving on to that full 360-degree spin so you can check out all of this thing's aesthetic features from every angle. And I have to say, this looks spectacular. It looks so much better than I thought it would, and it looks so much better in person than any of the promo pictures have ever made this look. There is a lot going on here, and it does blow my mind that this is a kit from 2006 or 7 or 8 or whenever it's from, because it is fantastic looking. I'm not sure if they've updated it in the meantime or what, but from the look of the runners, they have not. This thing has so much going on. You've got actual springs in the legs which look really cool. They look like something's gonna happen there. Like something is spring-loaded. It isn't, but it looks cool. We've got some clear parts around on the taillights back here, so it has lights in its butt. That's awesome. We've got clear parts for the canopy. The clear parts come in both colorless, like around on the booty, and color accurate for the kit, like we're seeing on the canopy. Of course, the clear ones for if you want to paint it yourself. We do have some metallic injection plastic in here for the toes as well as the teeth and some other silver parts on this. In general, this sort of plastic tends to look a little bit on the cheap and toyish side, but maybe because the Zoid has a kind of colorful, unique look to it, this doesn't actually look that bad and it catches the light nicely. Maybe Kotobukiya's metallic injection is just nicer than what we see with Bandai. Yeah, but on the whole, this thing looks phenomenal. I am blown away, and it is so cool. I will mention there is a lot of seam lines on this kit and a lot of nubs to clean up because it is old tech. Like I mentioned, a lot of the parts are made of multiple parts because they could only put detail on one surface, so that does mean there may be a lot of cleanup and gluing involved. But still though, it's seriously awesome looking. I only just remembered this at the end, actually, this couple of things that I'm about to mention. This comes with a heck ton of water slide decals. I didn't get the chance to use these because the build took me so long that, well, I needed to get a video done. But yeah, there is a lot of decals in here. These are very nice and I'd love to see it with them on. And also, another thing is, I mentioned I have built another Zoid before in the past, and that was this right here, sans the plaster stuck to it. But this I bought at a convention ages ago. I don't know if it was Wonder Festival or one of the other ones like Kiara Hobby. But this is a Takaratomi version, so it's not as big, it doesn't really do anything, and essentially it's a big old wind-up toy. So it's got a little windy thing there in the side. I think most of, if not all of, the Takaratomi versions of the Zoids are these kind of wind-up toys. So you pull this thing out of its tail, which is a bit of a tool, stick it on into that hole, windy, 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 and then he should be able to walk. He always seems to meander off to the left a bit though. Come on, don't give up already. Need more winded? Come on. There we go. Bye-bye. So now moving on to the accessories, and here is the Blade Liger AB with absolutely everything. It doesn't come with anything. This is it, and in a way I feel this is fantastic. I like the fact that it doesn't have any accessories. I don't have to put them in a bag with millions of other accessories. That's quite cool. So what you see right here is essentially what you get, and I do like that fact. There There is the option of using these little guys in here, which are also included. These are for the blades up here on the shoulder. So essentially what this will do is remove this whole section right here, this weapon, this gun. However, we do not get the polycap required for building both this and the arms back here because they both use the exact same polycap, or if I'm not mistaken, it took me a long time to search for the fact that there isn't another one in here. But yeah, so you can't have these complete on the side for if you want to swap it in and out whenever you want because the polycap is not inside of those. But why would you want to leave it without the guns? They look awesome. So because it doesn't have any accessories per se, I'm just going to talk about the weapons in this section because they are quite cool, and there's ones that I really did not enjoy building. And that, of course, would be the guns up here. So the reason I did not enjoy building these is because they have what I refer to as a balancing act. Basically, it's got a bunch of moving parts inside of it that you need to balance all together while building it, or it will all just fall apart. So you're kind of just balancing them on the inner surface, hoping that when you put the top cap section on, which is the other side of it, they won't all just fall out. They will fall out. They most certainly will fall out, and they do a lot of the time. Again, glue this thing. It'll save you a lot of nightmares. So while talking about all of the Liger's features, which are mentioned here, they're all in Japanese, by the way. But there is a nice little section in here of a lot of illustrations. This is very, very nice to kind of see all of the different features of this kit nicely illustrated out like this is kind of cool. Actually, it's extremely cool. Too bad they don't have it translated to English so you could read through all of that. But hey, the illustrations are awesome, so that is pretty cool. So as for what this guy's packing, he's got his razor sabers. That is his teeth right here in the front. The mouth opens, which is awesome. These are actually legit sharp, which is pretty cool. And that's the first weapon here. It's razor sabers. The next thing mentioned in the manual is the canopy up here. It's not a weapon, of course, but it is a feature. It does open up ever so nicely like this. We do have a little pilot figure in here. Actually, if you can see back there, we've got two pilot figures. Once again, I don't know anything about ZOIDS at all, but I think it's cool that it has two pilots in there, kind of like a kind of fighter jet. That's pretty cool. The next feature up here look like tiny little ears. These are the multi-sensors. They, don't do anything. They look cute though. The next feature we have are the rabbit ears here, which are the multi-blade antennas. So these can move up and down like this right here. We've got some that kind of look like a bit of a mane on the side. These are all on one big kind of polycap part that moves forward like this and back like this. But they can come loose quite easily, but try to move them all at once because they don't move individually. Actually, on second look at the instructions, only these are the antenna. These right here and this part up here, which can also move up and down like so, look spiky and cool, are shield generators. Also, because of the time and when I need to get this video up, which is very, very soon, I'm not going to go through all the articulation on this, but it's got a ball joint for a neck, and it holds on pretty good and gives you some nice, but not crazy articulation. I will do some test poses instead the whole articulation, so you can get a vibe of what it can do. On the underside now we've got the shock cannon, and this I almost forgot to build. On flipping it over onto its side, you can see that this is very nicely designed under here. So it is attached from the front end of the torso to the abdomen area, and this does have some nice moving and swiveling parts. Pretty cool design right there. The next weapon we have right here is the claws down here. These are referred to as the strike claws. These are all individually jointed at this point. There isn't a huge amount of range of motion on them, but it's enough to make them very, very nice and at the same time quite expressive. That is pretty cool. So next we've got these white sections here on the sides. I am having trouble understanding what this says here. Completion refrigerator? Huh? Is it its radar? Completion refrigerator. I have no idea. But they are pretty cool. They can pull out and back like this on some polycap parts, back and out like this. And the white sections on these can pull out even further. So these are very, very nice. So that's them out, and bam, 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 that is them in. The tail back here is referred to as the 3D jewel sensor. So this is made of a bunch of little twistable things with angles, so it does mean you can get some kind of direction to it, but there is no actual pivot at all. It's just a bunch of different spins to get you different angles. So it's effective, but feels quite delicate. Beware. Around in the back then, we've got the rocket booster, so this is on the upper back. This can move up like this. We've got the little jet sections in here. Those can move up and out. Might be a little bit hard to see there, but these, whoa, wow, that can really come out of there, can't it? I mean, that can really move up and down. Extension a little bit there, and that folds away in behind the armor, just like that. Pretty awesome. And what I can only assume is the main weapons on the Blade Liger AB right here is this up here, which is the attack boosters. So there's boosters up here, just like we saw on the back. These slide out like so, extend out like that. They tuck away like that. On flipping this around like this, then extending it out like so, we've got ourselves a pair of high density beam cannons. This whole array here in the side can drop down like so. Putting this together was a bit of a balancing act too. This little piston in here had to be held in a very funny way to get it all put together, and kind of felt like, well, it didn't feel like, it did fall apart multiple times when I was putting it together, but hey, it works now that it's all glued together, and it looks awesome. So once again, this cannon can close up, flip back out of the way just like so, and then we've got those blades, which makes this, well, a Blade Liger. These can extend, hold on, these can extend like so. This one doesn't seem to want to move. No. Yeah, that might be the glue that's in there. But anyway, over on the other side, that's what it looks like extended, and that's what it looks like retracted. Finally, in under the head here, we do have this right here, which is the Zoid core. This just slides out like so, and this has a pretty cool little plastic thing in here. At first, I thought this was a glass marble, but it's not, it is plastic. But that is a pretty awesome little feature, without a doubt. It just closes up like this, pops into this slot right here, and more than likely you can actually do this with the head on, but I just wanted to show what it looked like in there. But yeah, that is essentially it for all the features that's on this awesome kit right here. As for the articulation on this, I'm going to just briefly talk about it. It is a lot better than I had actually expected. There's a lot of very nice articulation to the body, there's a lot of contortion, bending that it can do, the legs are very nice as well, and once again, I'm not sure how this would be if you did not glue every part. It probably is fine. In the instructions, it does say to glue some parts, so because of that, I decided to just go ahead and glue a lot of parts, because some of the Kotobukiya kits I have built in the past, I've often felt after straight building them that they would have been so much better if they were glued, because there is quite a few loose parts that tend to fall off them when you are posing or playing around with them. But when it does come to poses, with this kit, you can get some awesomely dynamic stuff out of it. Nothing OTT, nothing crazy, but a lot more than the pictures in the manual or online ever suggested to me, so it is a lot of fun to pose and a lot of fun to play around with. So that right there is it for the review, and I have to admit I am beyond impressed with this right here. I'm not going to rate it because I have nothing to rate it against yet. I'm going to build a lot of these. I love these right here. Expect more to come. I'm going to ask you straight away before mentioning anything else about this kit. If there's any Zoids that you recommend, let me know right now down there in the comments, because this is awesome and I want to see more awesome Zoids. But yeah, once again, this is a review from the perspective of someone who's never built a Kotobukiya Zoid before. I've built a lot of gunpla, so it's the only thing I can really compare it to, and it is quite different, but at the same time, somewhat the same. One thing I didn't mention throughout this review is this has a lot of polycaps in its build. So far, they aren't really an issue. Sometimes the legs pop off because of the polycaps, but nothing really all that bad. They just kind of tend to wiggle their way off over time, but nothing all that bad, like I just mentioned. However, this thing is so impressive. It's massive, it's detailed, it looks cool. It doesn't have the greatest articulation around, but for a cat-like or a lion-like or liger-like creature, there isn't really more you'd want from this, or more that they would be able to do. And once again, I've never seen the ZOIDS anime, but I assume they don't do a whole lot more than what this can do in the anime. So basically, if there's one thing you take away from this review right here, if you are Zoid curious, I can recommend this kit right here. It's the only one I've looked at so far, but I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun, it's big, it is a little bit on the expensive side, but I do feel that the size and amount of plastic in this box, that price point is quite fair. This kit is a lot bigger than I expected it to be. Anyway, once again, thank you to each and every one of you guys who recommended checking out Zoids to me, especially the Kotobukiya ones. And to all of you guys who voted for this line of kits for reviews, because it is so, well, awesome. Again, I can't believe this is a 2006 to 2008 kit. But anyway, I digress. If you want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. You can get yours at Hobbylink Japan. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and I will see you next time. Once again, all my unending thanks to each and every one of you guys, whether you just watch the videos, like the videos, share them, or support me on the channel memberships and over on Patreon like Craig Jury, Kaiser721, Bolwig, Tyler Sanders, Caleb Engelhart, Hank Handsome, and Sean T.